Hello, ladies and gentlemen, especially those of you in Nigeria. Once again, this is your favorite doctor for free, Dr. Anamakalulu, coming to you from New York City. Today, I want to continue my series of teachings, which most of you already know is mostly tailored towards educating the white populace, mostly in Nigeria, also in Africa and the rest of the world, about our rights and how to be well informed about our ailments when we visit the medical personnel, mostly in my country, Nigeria. Today, I decided to choose a topic that has become almost topical, if I may use that word, because I've been inundated with a lot of calls, a lot of texts, a lot of chats from people, mostly in Nigeria, to know the real rudiments about this ailment that some of them have suffered for a long time without getting appropriate remedy. So this is just to empower you over there. And the topic today is peptic ulcers. In medical terms, what is an ulcer? An ulcer is mostly a wound. So if you have a wound on your skin, it is called skin ulcer. So by extrapolation, when you say peptic ulcer, which is composed of both gastric and duodenal ulcers. When you say peptic ulcers, it means wounds in these areas. Gastric is the other term for stomach, medically. And then duodenal ulcer, duodenum stands for the first part of the small intestine, which is abutting on the stomach. It's usually C-shaped if you look at the gastrointestinal tract. So you have wounds in these areas. And it's called peptic because most of them are due to pepsin, the acid produced in the stomach that helps with digestion of food, and somehow or the other you can eat into the stomach lining or the lining of the next adjoining segment, which is duodenum, and cause a wound. And so that's why it's called peptic ulcer. It's mostly wounds in these areas. Now the problem over there is how we diagnose and manage people. It is very rampant in a wide range of people. When you talk to somebody in Nigeria, like in the streets, they all think that peptic ulcers are due to just not eating. But when you say to somebody you have an ulcer, well, I'm going to just use ulcer for that, forgetting skin ulcers for now. And they will just say, oh, but I've been eating. There are a whole lot of causes. Just instrumentation, putting down a tube to look at something in the stomach, can give you an ulcer, can give you a wound, and that's an ulcer. And there are people who have hyperacidity, no matter what they do, like in the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome, which is, hyperacid secretion. Whether these people eat correctly or normally, they are wound to have too much acid in the stomach, and this can give them injuries. On the other hand, this acid is supposed to digest your food. That is why the lining of God made it that the lining of the stomach is thick. For those of you who like the delicacy called towel, or what we call towel in Nigeria, It is actually the lining of the stomach. I know most of you like to go to Kwabi joint and eat it. That is how thick it is, like, towel, it's supposed to be protective so that to withstand the hyperacidity and the erosion from the acid in the stomach. So most times, stomach ulcers are not really because of the acid, because it's there all the time. It's mostly because of some breach in the protection provided by the lining of the stomach, and then you develop stomach ulcer, which is a part of peptic ulcer. So those of you that think it's just diet, I'm here to educate you. Although your eating habit can also contribute. Like, there is a basal acid production almost hourly. Whether you eat or not, your body produces peptic acid, and this will eat on the substrates in your stomach, like food, But when there is no food, then these things might tend to eat the linings. Remember, this is a cumulative effect. It's not just a one-time thing, or it's a chronic assault to the stomach lining. So over time, if your pattern doesn't improve, because for people who already developed ulcers, they are supposed to eat small frequent meals. Why? Because whether you eat or not, there's an acid level that is produced. So you need to eat to soak up this acid that you're producing at each time. So you have food there in the stomach all the time, soaking up the acid and preventing further assault at the walls. But you know how nature makes things. There's always a reflex mechanism. If you do not eat, then this basal level will cause injury. But if you eat, it will soak up the acid and protect you somewhat. But if you happen to not eat heavy, for some of you that want to chow down on a big basin of rice or apple or fufu, then your stomach will distend. When it distends, it sends a reflex signal to the higher functions that there is food now, and that reflex signal will cause too much pouring of acid into your stomach. So digest what is there, and of course it's invariably going to be more profuse than you need, and then it will result in further injury after the substrate has been annihilated. So this is why you are advised to eat small frequent meals, which will soak up the basal acid that is being produced without having to induce the reflex acid production that will give you more injury. I will along the line come to some of the remedies that you will need, like if you have a peptic ulcer, or if you have ulcer, let's call it that, you are supposed to sleep not flat on the bed, because when you do, your acid will flow back into your esophagus, which is your gullet, which has little or no protection, and give you what we call gastric acid reflux, what we call GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, which is a reflux into the esophagus, which has little protection, and that will give you esophagitis, which is also a form of ulcer. So we have gastric ulcer, then duodenal ulcer, we also have esophagitis, we even have gastritis, which is just irritation of the stomach linings. All these things form a spectrum that tend to give you what we call symptoms of ulcer, which is mostly bloating, belching, upper abdominal pain. The stomach moves around. For those of you who come from Africa, where I come from, where we've seen goats killed or cows killed during festivities, and routinely, you see what it means when you disembowel the animal. You see that the linings will be all swimming around That is how, even in life, that's how your stomach or the linings move. That's, at times your stomach can come to your chest. At times it goes to your neck, almost. It goes to your back. It goes down. When it goes to any of these places, you feel the pain. Because when some people call me and say, oh, I'm having this pain to the back, I tell them it's ulcer. They say, how come? It's in my neck, in my chest. Some people, if you have this spectrum of symptoms, you might even be thinking you're having heart attack, because at times you just give a strong tightening of the chest, and then if you take any of these antacids, you start belching about them before anybody knows what is going on. You are relieved. This is why you have this multiplicity of symptoms that seems to be confusing. You will confuse even people in the health sector, because his stomach is mobile together with the duodenum. So spectrum of this illness include, like I said earlier, gastritis, which is just irritation of the stomach, and that's, most people tend to have it from alcohol intake, some medications, your eating habit too, not eating at structured times frequently. Some people will go hungry for a day or two and then eat heavily. That is actually one of the worst things you could bestow on yourself. We now know how we get this peptic ulcer disease. Of course, I told you earlier about the people with hypersecretion syndrome, which really you can only try to ameliorate. No matter what you do, no matter how you eat well, it will come. That one is beside the point. My issue is that